Getting my incense together.
We are live.
Hi.
I still can't really hear you, but anywho.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know what's different because we're using the same program we used last night, aren't we? No, we're not. No, we didn't use StreamYard last
It's a
night.
new thing. Don't worry about it. Anyway, hello, Shamaka. I love chatting with you. How are you?
I am here, which is good because we talked yesterday. Consistency is my word.
Yeah.
And I woke up feeling like crap this morning. And so I just did an evaluation of what was important and what wasn't. But I was able to remain committed and consistent to the things that are important for where I'm going. So that's how I'm doing.
Well, this is good. This is good. I'm going to look for some headphones or something for a moment. So you just...
Well, I'm still doing my incense and stuff. So
okay, well, get your incense.
As people see me.
I think I booted myself off. Okay. Well, anyway, while you're getting your incense together, let's talk about what we were thinking about in regard to money, energy. I like how we always decide like a topic, and then you and I have like these varying views that often come together anyway. But because like your marketing for it is completely different than mine, right? Like yours was this beautiful like money flows. God, mine is like money talks, bullshit walks. So let me hear what you want to talk about, my love.
I mean, I don't know. I honestly feel like money is your thing. So what I mean by that is, I don't know if this helps me. I put the headphones on.
Keep talking. I'm listening.
I don't mean that like only you value money out of the two of us. I think just like where we are in our lives, we're both focused on making money. But for me, it's more, I'm coalescing around being able to make money in a way that isn't entirely in alignment with me. Because I've made lots of money before, but it wasn't done in alignment. So then I've gotten in alignment and didn't make any damn money. Now I'm committed to doing both, right? To being in alignment and making money. So for me, it's not about how much, like it's not about like a certain income goal. Like I've been actually thinking about that. I feel like I might have set my income goal too low for actual products. Like when like, it's like, oh, for me to actually do the work that I want to do, that's kind of a ridiculous goal. So I might need to change that so that it's actually reflective of the year I desire to have. But money is not the motivating factor, if that makes sense. The motivating factor for me is to be able to do the work in the world that I love and feel like I'm in a reciprocal, right relationship with the people I'm doing the work with. That is like the highest thing for me. I feel like for you, you've pretty much cultivated a lot of that last year.
Yeah.
For you. And so like this year, it's like, okay, I did all that shit. Now I want to see it reap. So I want to hear more about, like, I have stuff to say about money, but I feel like you're just a little bit more enthusiastic about money this year because you put a lot of prep in last year to be able to do big things this year.
I really, really did. And I'm super excited about it. And I'm excited about talking about this stuff, right? Because money is such a funky ass topic. Like as a society, if you have money, you're taught not to talk about it because the poor won't like it, right? And I mean, like, I've been the poor. I am the poor currently, especially by these inflation rates. And I think that having conversations around money, what money can do for you as a tool is something that's important. For me, I look at money as an intercessory, right? Like that, like how I say, like, all of this colonization, the same way they created a god and then made themselves an intercessory to get to this divine alignment. Like, oh, I must go and, hear from a pastor or confess to a priest or the same thing with money, right? Like we should all have access to abundance. Damn sure our needs be met, right? Like Nobody should be like, I need to make more money so I could go to sleep at night, like afford rent. That's insanity, right? Like with that level of separation. So for me, because it's an intercessory tool, I look at it as just that, right? Like I'm not like, yeah, I need to make some money so I could hoard some money. I'm like, I need to make some money so I could live my life with ease. Like your life, like your word for this year is consistency and mine is ease. And for me, like you said, I've cultivated a lot of those things, right? I cultivated the online community. I have wonderful leaders like yourself. I have great community members that show up. You know, I have clients that are now regular, like weekly clients and coaching clients that come up again. So like those things are already there. So now it's like, okay, I need to cultivate more money so I could have more ease. And with that, I'm learning like trading because you and I align on the like hustling healing, right? Like the boss babe energy, like, oh, grinds my gears. So I don't know if that fully answers your question, but like it's not a hoarding thing, right? Like I need to make money for the sake of making money. I need to make money for the sake of the ease that it brings your life. And,
I mean, you're like preaching to the choir with that.
Oh,
right?
yeah, no, I know that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
No, I know that. We've had these conversations. I'm talking about like to the broad who may hear it, who may see it, who like, I asked a question about a week or so ago on my Facebook, and I was like, do y'all really hate the rich or you hate the lack of access that you have because you are not the rich? Like, because there's a huge gap between like us normal people and Jeff Bezos rich. And often when people are talking, I'm like, you guys are really upset about like the average person who's just kind of like making a good living. And while you may hate the billionaires, which is fair, right? Because like I'm not in alignment with billionaires existing either. You don't need that much money, even for generational wealth.
Right.
Like at all. And I believe in generational wealth.
Purpose of being able to oppress people. The only purpose having $1 billion has is that you have the power to oppress people. But as far as like any actual functionality, like you want your kids to have all of the healthcare, all of the education, all of the house, all of the trips, all of that, you don't need $1 billion for that. So yeah.
You don't need $1 billion. And you damn sure don't need multiple billion.
I feel like you can have like 100 million easy. 100 million easy. I
can
even say maybe 250 million because that's not starving people. It's literally, I don't think people really understand what $1 billion means, right? Like,
I don't think so. I saw a meme once with like the grains of rice. Have you seen that? I swear I'm going to share that.
Okay.
Because that's a perfect analogy. Continue.
Okay. So yeah, I'm with you on that. At the same time, so like for me, I did not grow up poor, right? So for me, but I didn't grow up wealthy either, but I grew up with a certain level of comfort, right? So like I didn't grow up into like the scarcity mindset of there's not enough. I grew up always expecting there to be enough, right? Also with that, I grew up with parents who often use money and things to substitute parenting and care and affection. So I kind of like grew to resent money, right? Like I was like, oh, you're not going to motivate me to do shit for money because you can't buy me. Like that was my thing. Like I can't be bought.
Hold on, can I interrupt or interject right there? I think that that's another thing too, is right, like when we are sitting there so angry at people with means, we also don't understand the levels of oppression that go on in their homes and spaces either. Because too many people do that, right? Like, you need to go to the school I say go to. You need to marry the person I say marry. You need to exist and identify as I say. We kind of touched on that, just our personal time. Like, there's expectations and constraints. I don't even want to say expectations. There are constraints that also come along with that privilege sometimes, too. Like, I think it's why you kind of always see like the rich kids gone bad, like kind of thing. Like, but why? Because money. And I'm like, money is not, like you said, the motivating factor, right? Like,
I think a big thing for people, I think one thing that people get really twisted is kids, whether they're actual children or not, but like the offspring, the progeny of people who have money does not mean they have money. it's a very, because see, the poor are very different from everybody else. If a poor person has it and they have a relationship with their kids
They're
kids
spreading
have
it.
it, period. It's guaranteed. The only way their kids don't have it is because they don't have a relationship. But if they have a relationship,
Right.
a poor person's not going to look their kid in the face and be like, starve.
Nah, you good.
Nah.
Get it
Like,
out the mic.
right? But like a wealthy or a middle class parent will. And I think that is what poor people don't know. My mom would pay for my cousin's mortgage. And like you know, like my cousins would go through custody disputes. She's paying their lawyer fees. She's finding them lawyer. Like all of these things. Like, but like when it comes to me, it's like, oh, you're queer?
Can't help you.
You're sleeping in your car?
Because you're not living the way I want you to.
Yes. Then like oh no, I pierced my eyebrow. And she was like, I will not be seen in public with you.
Oof.
I was 19
Listen to parents
years
to me.
old on my
I was
own.
piercing tattooed by that time anyway.
So, I mean, I'm just saying, like, all of these things for me, I had an interesting relationship with money because I always expect my needs to be met. I start to look at the people around me really fucking shady and weird when my basic needs aren't being met. Like, why are you even in my life?
Yes.
I'm good by myself. Like, I don't really need a lot of company. Like, I'm really good by myself. I can go to the library and strike up a conversation with somebody. Like, I'm really good by myself. But I believe in intentional community. And so I'm not going to also leave my community without their basic needs being met. Right. And so I have that expectation about money. And so like, I think, you know, people talk about money stories a lot. And I think in the coaching industry, people talk about things and it starts to become cliches, right? Like when you first started talking about a money story, it meant something because that was new language. So there wasn't a preconceived idea about what that meant. So a person had to really lean forward and listen. So what are you talking about? My money story? What the fuck does that mean? But now people think, at least they think they know what you're talking about when you say that. And so they'll be like, oh, I'm good. I got it. I'm good. And I'm like, well, the thing is everybody has a money story, right? And so you need to really like, it's not about not having one. It's about being aware of it and being like, is it currently serving what I desire right now? And so like, I had to lose my resentment of money and be like, oh, money wasn't the problem. Control was always the problem. Money is just a tool, and that controlling person used a tool to further be controlling, right? But like,
there it is.
So like that, and now I have a better relationship with money. I guess like I feel like for money, as far as money goes, I don't have the level of absolute ease, but even my sales goals puts me in a place of absolute ease, right? Because I'm at a place of just, we're good as long as shit don't go crazy.
Right.
Like, I mean, we're
and I think that's a fair place to be, right? Like that's like, okay. I'm not waking up like biting my nails concerned, but you know, I could always kind of get some more. And like that's really what my thing was with the post that I put out in regards to, it's like, what are we really resenting? And if in fact that's that, because then also what you'll see is like, for me, it's like a part of the whole, like that liberal agenda. You know how I feel about like that. I get liberal, period. I can't say it any other way. And I'm really working on that because I don't want to sound like a whole right-wing nut. But it's like that whole, it's part and parcel of that. Like, oh no, we hate the rich, we hate the this. And then I'm like, what are you resenting, right? Because like control comes in all spaces, and control is access to any resources. If that person is controlling any resource that they have, I don't care if we are sitting here sleeping on a cot, you don't want to break it, a pack of noodles in half with me. That's a resource that you're hoarding based on control, right? And to me, that's no different than that, or, you know, your money. Because like you're literally willing to let me be hungry because I'm not doing something that you want to do. So that kind of control and that abuse ranges from, it has nothing to do with the monetary value. Right. And then when we build in that resentment, right, like, and where these like liberal views and spiritualist and kind of things coincide and often overlap, is like, these are also the same like love and light type folks. These are also the same like law of attraction type folks. And like, and then mantras and yoga and doing all of this shit to attract all of these things, but like screaming they hate money. And I'm like, dissonance. You suffer from dissonance, which you can see in all aspects of your life, right? Like dissonance in politics, like this, like it's dissonance. It does, those two things don't mix. You can't want to attract something to, I want abundance, right? They mull and they lament over what they would do with money. Oh, if I had money and I would take care of my friends and I'd buy everybody a kitten. Okay, so why you hate money?
I guess I don't really.
Why do you hate it?
I am not surrounded by a lot of people who hate money, so that's really interesting.
I have a public Facebook, and I love your idea, and I'm thinking about totally implementing it in 2022. I have a public-facing Facebook page, and I'm in a ton of groups, and I'm actually active in all of the groups that I'm in. So I see more people than I would actually say I'm actually friends with on Facebook, and I'm just like, wow. And I keep myself in different spaces just so I could see, and I'm really cognizant and really intentional about not living in an echo chamber, which is very easy to do on the internet. So I stay in lots of groups, and I'm like, oh, so I get to witness a lot of people in these
I
spaces.
don't. I am perfectly fine living in my echo chamber. I cultivate the echo chamber to make the echoes more harmonious and resonant. Yes, like so.
I hear you.
I mean, I love the echo chamber, and it's because I'm not unaware of what's happening outside of it. Because every fucking time I step out of my actual door, I am jarred with like,
what's happening out here?
I am always like, it's so loud outside. Why is the sun so loud? Like, I have beef with the sun. Like, we have a love-hate relationship. We're going through therapy. We're working it out. I understand. I very much am. Okay. So, yeah. And so this, I don't know. That's just, I think, I can't really speak to what other people's stories are. I don't, like I said, the people, I guess it also has to do with my background, right? Because you're not a classist. You're like, part of your politic is like being one with the poor.
Yeah.
And that's not my politic. My politic is
have that conversation.
Get as far away from being poor as fucking possible.
Hold on, wait. But not poor people. You see,
not poor people.
Like, I need you to clarify that, because I understand your. Let me make this distinct. So people are like, what? You are a classist based on the fact of access, right? Like you said, I want to separate myself from being poor so I can have. I'm chronically ill. I'm queer. I'm Black. I'm femme presenting. You have plenty of intersections within marginalized groups that make it impossible to survive even when rich. When you have women like Serena Williams and Beyonce telling you, yo, the birthing industry sucks, or people are not taking my health concerns seriously, being a Shamaka makes it that much more unfucking bearable. So I want to be very clear that it's not like, oh, I must get away from the pool. The stench is awful. It is more like, I can't do this because I would die, and they would not care that I died.
Well, it's that, but I think it's a little bit, I don't think it's, I have to get away from the poor because the stench is so bad, but I think people could give the honest analysis and reach that conclusion about me, and I think they could be reasonable, because I recognize, like, there's this dual reality that's happening, right? That there's systemic poverty that exists, and there is scarcity mindset that exists, right?
Absolutely.
And so for me, scarcity mindset often dwells with people who are poor, not because of any deficit of their own. It's from experiencing actual scarcity, right?
See, I would say the same of rich people. So carry on, because I'm going to come back. I'm going to put a pin in my thoughts.
Okay, so let me clarify. I do not think being wealthy means you have an abundant mindset. I don't think that's like, just like I say, I don't think that being thin and healthy means you're healthy. Like, is it equated? Right. I don't think having money and having an abundant mindset are equal. I think there are a lot of people who have lived in poverty their entire lives and have the most abundant life that you can imagine, because abundance is not about money. Abundance is about having a full, rich experience of life, right?
Correct.
So it's not that. What I am saying is that the opposite of abundance would be scarcity. And when you live in actual scarcity, like when you have to choose between food and electricity, when you have to do those things, it is easier to develop that as a worldview, opposed to like, this is a circumstance I'm navigating. That's all that I'm saying.
I could agree with that.
So
because it becomes very real. And then because of your lack of access to other spaces, this becomes your worldview, right? Like that's the echo chambers. That's why I'm saying, like, I really do like to be in other spaces, because it's not just for the negative. It's just that it keeps me on my toes, right? Like, and having grown up, like somebody like me, I grew up in New York City, and during like the 80s and 90s, like crack era, everything hit hard. But the wild thing in New York is like the diversity is insane, ethnically, religiously, socioeconomically, financially, like all of the demographics in New York City are wild. Like you could literally be like poor as shit and turn the corner and like this person is making buku bucks. So it's like, I kind of cultivate that now because I don't have that physical living space, right? Like where you see all these different people with all these different walks of life. Like the person in my building is an executive, but like I am on food stamps, right? Like you just don't see that. It's a very New York City. I can't speak to it now, but New York City when I was growing up was a very unique experience when I get to look back, as far as like a crash course to the world and all of what mixed demographics actually look like. So for me, staying out of that space is because, like, yes, right? Like I grew up woefully poor. I grew up in the South Bronx. I grew up during, violent times. Myself, I was a juvenile delinquent. And like that worldview, if you're not exposed to anything else, is like, nah, everything is like this. It's all shit. Everybody's dying. Everybody's poor. Everybody's hot. So it is like, I agree with you that the scarcity mindset is cultivated inside of scarcity. And then we could talk about systemic reasons why scarcity exists. You know what I mean? Like because when I put up the post, like it was very interesting because I was intentionally neutral about my language. And like so many people answered, and I was like, you're answering from your shadow. You're answering from your hurt. I didn't say that. I literally didn't. It was a 3-sentence post, and you wrote a paragraph about what I said. Right? Like, well, you said I didn't say any of that. That is your healing point. You need to heal your relationship with money. That's what I said. You need to heal. That's it. I didn't say how fast. I didn't say when. I didn't say how. It wasn't a think and grow rich post. It was like, you just need to heal. Like, period. Even if it's like you come into like alignment with like, yo, I'm poor and I'm just going to make the best of this poverty. You know what I'm saying? Okay, I'm going to take these ramen noodles and I'm going to add potatoes to it. Like, because that's what we did. Like, made that thicker. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what else to say. Is like, when I'm talking about healing, that's whatever it looks like for you. It's not a think and grow rich, because your money is not the issue. You're, like you said, it's the relationship with money, right? Like if money were the issue, we wouldn't have the TV shows like, oh, I'm a broke lottery winner kind of thing, right? Like, no, it's your relationship with money. If you can't manage 20, you won't manage 20,000, 20 million. It won't matter, right? If you don't feel, for me, like if you don't feel like I've been woefully poor and still found the beauty in every single thing and the abundance in my life. If you don't have that, I don't think that it's a money issue. I think it's a mindset issue, right? Because we all got to start somewhere. And some of us, like when you're literally, I never thought I would be where I am, ever. I wanted to be where I was stable, right? Like my biggest goal when I was like homeless and fucked up was like, I would never want to worry about where I sleep. Like, and I don't want my kids to ever have to worry about where I sleep. So, I've been placed in positions that now that's a reality, right? Like if I pay my taxes, I'm good, right? They can't touch it. It's paid off. It's done. So like, then I was like, okay, so now what? And it was at those points in my life that I realized it's really not a monetary thing, right? Like it's your mindset, it's your goal setting, it's your alignment with what looks like abundance to you. For
It's really,
me, that's my
it's
idea.
it's really interesting that you said that because um Davender and I, when we were in our like mid to late 20s, there was a
Hmm.
time where we both collectively would have had about $200,000.
Let me
And
borrow $5, girl.
everybody was like, I want to, why don't you buy something? Why don't you buy something? Why don't you buy something? And for them, they were like, I guess, I don't, whatever their mindset was, I guess that was like the obvious thing to do. But for us,
Right,
we were like, no, because that takes away freedom. That locks us down. Now we are responsible for property and we're 20 something years old. Like we are still figuring out our lives, right? And but we came from the mindset and we still exist in the mindset of but
right.
that's not a one-time thing. I can make $200,000 this year. Like it's not like, oh, because this happened, I have to latch onto it and make sure that whatever, you know what I mean? Like I don't live in that energy space of like I have to make sure it happens. I live in the energy space of it is always available, right? And so,
Right, but you're talking about like going back to your point is it goes back to the scarcity mindset, right? Of
right,
poverty. You grew up having your needs met, so
yeah,
that was an expectation. I grew up not having needs. Like when I look back, like certain things, and it's also what shaped me, right? Like this is why I talk about everybody comes to this table with their own lived experiences. It's all fucking valid. You cannot just make one swath of an opinion about someone, right? So like while like I mean like I didn't have to worry about lights on, lights off or any of that or food. And that's because like my mom was like adamant about assistance, right? Like but then like other people in my family talk shit about her for that. But I never was worried about food, whether it was standing on a food line or not. You know, like we ate every night. My dad cooked. My mom went to school and did this, that, and the third, right? I never worried about like, where am I sleeping tonight? I don't know how the hell they did that. And they're both dead right now. I'm assuming also some type of like Section 8 or something. My mom always had some type of thing going on. Um, so like those core things were like that was never, I was not house to house or any of that kind of stuff. My mom was always at like some type of PTA meetings. My dad was always at the park. So these are like the the things I cherry picked from my childhood. But then you look back and like my father was always at the park because he was an alcoholic and a drug user, and that's like he was hanging at the liquor store. But he still played with me, right? So like that's how I registered that, right? Like my mom was at all my school meetings and every school trip. Well, because if you are a parent volunteer, you don't pay for the field trip. And, she had time because she used government assistance. So like they made the best of everything that it was. So for me, I found abundance in poverty, right? Now, when I used to go over to my cousin's house though, right, like to me, like them not using margarine and having like sticks of butter, I was like, yo, they rich. Like literally. I loved going to my Aunt Deidre's house. I was like, yo, they don't got margarine, right? My mom had that shitty brown tub of margarine. I hated that shit. It tasted horrible. But I come to find out as she was older, she actually likes the taste of margarine over butter. I'm a butter person. But that literally to me was an indication that she was rich. Or like my aunt would like send us to the store to go get like 4 rolls, $1 salami, $1 worth of cheese. And I was like, we're getting fresh cold cuts, not those horrible ones in the thing with the little seeds in there. So like there's still that, right? And like now, like my kids don't even know that there's like bologna exists, only because me and my husband will get bologna so we could reminisce. And they're like, "Oh, that's interesting," but that was like a normal staple. So I think that that's what it is, right? Like it's just that mindset. You had an expectation that all your needs would be met. And I had that as a basic foundation, like because those immediate needs, but I knew that it could fall apart at any given time.
right. Like you were aware of it being met. I wasn't even aware. I took it for granted. Like, of course, I have a place to stay. right?
Right.
Like
Duh.
like Anne.
That's my kids now. Don't feel bad. Because my kids have zero clue. They're like, just order it from Amazon. And I'm like, okay, we're going to have a conversation about money. Like,
I mean,
like,
I have a very complex, difficult, estranged relationship with my mom. But to give her credit, my grandmother was a housekeeper and a nanny, and my grandfather was a mechanic. And had like 10 kids, right? And so they always, like, my grandmother lives in the same house that my mom grew up in. So like they bought their house, it's like a house, like, so my mom didn't grow up, I mean, there's levels of poverty, right? And wealth and stuff like that. But and so, I mean, I just think relatively speaking, I mean, even my great grandmother, she owned her house. So like, I guess like these are things that I just take for granted. Like, oh, when I'm ready to buy a house, I'll buy a house. Like, okay, cool. But like I remember I was having like problems at home and I was having problems in just life. And I found out about a boarding school. And I just went to my mom and I was like, I've got the solution to like all of what's been happening. I should go to boarding school. And that was like $10,000 a semester. And I told her that like in May, and in August I went to boarding school.
Yeah, that's wild.
Right. So like that's how I like literally like I just kind of expect the things to happen.
So let me ask you a question. So because of that, and then obviously us having like these vast different experiences, but almost similar in like expectation of things, even though mine had more awareness built around it. What would you say are like being a parent? What tips would you help your child with, right? Like, or to provide others with is like getting into that alignment with like, no, rich isn't bad, right? Like having money is not the bad thing. Wanting to control people, wanting to hoard resources is the bad thing. Like, how would you break that down?
Well, I don't know, because Chancellor does not have that. I mean, Maddox does not have that issue. Maddox loves money. Maddox loves money. Maddox has a YouTube channel, and we're in the process of making merch. Because
can you please post that link somewhere? Because okay, I would definitely thought, like, I think him and Kieran are in alignment. Kieran talks about being rich all the time, and I'm like, that's not even a conversation we have. He's like, I'm gonna be rich.
No, like Chancellor just like, has these conversations. Like, okay, so Chancellor, this is the way Chancellor comes to me. Okay, so we're gonna do this. I need to do more videos, like, because he does need to do more videos, but he hasn't gotten to where he edits them. So anyway, we're working on that. So he's like,
I don't either.
But he needs to do more videos, and he was like, I need to do more videos so I can grow my following, and then I'm gonna sell merch, and then we'll be rich. And so he's like, so then when I do that, I want a house that's like 2 stories. He's really hooked on this 2 stories. And I was like, I really don't want a 2-story house. And he was like, so 3 stories? Like that's how Chancellor operates, right? Like it's never less. And so, yeah, he was like, so you don't want a 2-story house? Oh, it must be 3-story, right? Like, but like, so
couldn't just be a flat ranch. Like, no, we got an odd story. Okay, got it, buddy, got it.
Okay, yeah, so I'm just saying, like, he has a very naturally expansive inclination. So with him, for me, it's really important for me to preserve that. And the way I do that is, like, I don't tell him we can't afford something. Like, for me, it's always, that's not a financial priority, because that's the actual truth. We can afford whatever the fuck we want to afford. And so it's just like, nah, like, you getting the PS5 or whatever, dude, you're 9. It's not a financial priority.
Yeah, not happening.
Like, we got other shit to do. And so, like, I would invest that before I would buy that with a PS5. Like, I mean, and
I would definitely invest the money and buy the PS5. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
I would take it, and then with the profits, buy the PS5, and then I would teach him how to do that.
Oh yeah, I would totally not even do that. Like, because it's just not a financial priority for me. And he gets allowance. He has a way that he can make more money within our household, and I won't say empower him because he's naturally empowered, but we support him and being able to produce income for himself. So if it's a financial priority for him, He can, but apparently it's not, because he spends his allowance on video games. So his financial priorities are having video games for the consoles he already has, because that's how he chooses to allocate. And maybe he saves like $1 a week. Like he has his little savings.
Right.
So that's the actual conversation I have with my child with money. But like he actually triggers me sometimes. And so like I have to like meet him where he is, because like, I think I posted this and it's kind of gone viral on my page about when you raise your kids in a way like you have this consciousness of something. I knew that I wanted money to not represent control, and I wanted Chancellor to be excited and enthusiastic about money. And so I cultivated that intentionally by being excited, enthusiastic about money. Like when Chancellor was like a little bitty baby and would like find money, and other, like babies go put it in their mouth. And I'm like, oh, no. Let's get a piggy bank. And so we would just like, I would dump out my purse anytime Chancellor found a change. And so like the Chancellor learned, like as a toddler, like we would find change, give it to me and put it in his pocket so you can go put it in his piggy bank. But I wasn't like, oh, don't touch that. I was like, that's money. Hell yeah, touch that. Like, we will wash your hands. We will touch that. Like, so
pick it up, boy.
right. And like, so I mean, like, that's just free money. That used to trip me out when I was a kid. Because like I remember for 25 cents, I could buy.
Oh my God, that's adorable. I never thought about it like that. Oh, money.
Yeah, no, for 25 cents.
Pennies from heaven.
I could get like, for $1, I could get a Dixie cup, a pickle, and some chips and candy for $1 from the Canada Lake House for $1. So if I would like just walk down the street and find a dime, I'm like, I am 15 cents away from a Dixie cup, because those are my priorities at like 8, right? Like, so
right.
I don't have to ask anybody, anything. My cousin's going, I'm like, I'm going too. They're like, who's gonna give you money? Nobody. I have money. I got a whole 25 cents for myself. So like,
right.
From a very
hold on. I want to interject that, right? Like that right there. That's the feeling for me about money. It is the freedom. It's liberation. And unfortunately, this is the system that we live in. So when we kind of have this attitude about like hating money itself, not hating the institutions, not saying hating systemic poverty is a bad thing, not saying hating hoarding resources is a bad thing. Yes, you should, and be actively working towards destroying them. But hating money as a tool for ease is problematic. That feeling and that freedom of that 15-cent 8-year-old is something that needs to be carried into adulthood, right?
Absolutely.
Like, you know what? I like money. Like, money is okay. It works. It does what it needs to do. It's not, it's not in and of itself a bad thing.
I do more than
it's neutral.
I love money. No, it's not neutral. I love money.
No, I'm talking about the energy for it is neutral. What you put
my
into
relationship with it is not neutral. I love money. I remember, because I used to not, right? Like I had this thing about, I had to find this way of doing it for myself, of just forging my own path, because the paths that had been forged were not in alignment with me. And like, when I was in the middle of doing that, like I had to reshape my relationship with money, because originally I started off in ministry. And I was like, oh, I'm going to like heal people like Jesus, right? And so like, you never heard about Jesus being like, that'll be 1777. So like, how am I supposed to, you know what I'm saying, do that? And then
oh, yeah, no. I mean, we align with that, with like the hustling healing. I did the whole thing. I turned selenite and sage into a ministry too, because eventually when I make enough money from other ventures, I could actually do my healing work as a ministry.
But see, I don't have a problem with selling my services anymore.
Oh no, I'm not. No, okay, I have no problem with that either, because just the same way people tithe to churches and pastors are absolutely comfortable and with ease, I accept that as well. I'm just saying that for me, because there are people that are never going to be able to have that reach, and that's fine. Like that's just reality. So I would still like to be able to serve them without this feeling of you must pour out your pocket, right? Like you just must in order to get something back. right? Like there is a thing in the Bible. I used to do this offering, and it was like whatever you could do, ask me a question, whatever you can give. And it was like out of her own poverty, she gave all she had, is the Bible quote. And that's literally how I live my life, right? Like if she gave like 2 pence or like whatever the money, whatever the fuck the money was at the moment. But that's the quote. It's like out of her own poverty, she gave all she had. And I was like, yeah, that's it. That's the energy right there for me. So no, I don't have a problem, charging people for services, because I do. But I also want to be able to have a space and tier for those that really just don't have the reach to do so, hence the ministry and hence going back to you.
So like, I used to feel that way. And then I realized there is no one sitting around being like, how can I make sure that Shamaka has what they financially need? Like the only person is my partner who's thinking about our family. But even he's not sitting there thinking about me as an individual. Like, how do I make sure they have all of the money they can need? So like,
Right.
I feel like in exchange, it's inappropriate for me to be like, how can I make sure that people have access to all of the healing that they need? Not that they don't deserve access to it, but it's just not my responsibility, right? And so, and I say that because I leaned hardcore that way, naturally inclined to my deficit, to where I was doing organizing and community work and healing work full fucking time, like executive director of a whole organization, meeting with the Attorney General of the United States of America while running a separate consulting business while raising a toddler. And I'm not doing that shit anymore. I am going to
I do not believe in like pouring out of yourself without filling up first. My entire modality of healing comes from self-care first. Deepest, first and foremost, I believe in being selfish and taking care of first.
I just say that because
you can't get
right, but I'm just saying that I know that there's a lot of people, even within our community, who come from a place of not liking to take up space, and so like that's not really the energy you move from, right?
I damn sure don't.
Right, and so I'm
gonna take up all the space. I'm gonna knock all this shit down, guys.
So that is what I'm speaking to, is that inclination. Like if you come from that inclination, it can be difficult, right? To like, it's not so much as like, oh, it's dissonance. It's actually consistency, because you constantly see what people are willing to do for money. Like I've been in ministry and seen people scamming people. I've seen and like all kind of stuff. And so it starts to be like, oh, I don't even want to touch it. Like, because it's not the same control situation. It's like, oh, if that's what I have to do, like if they've learned, oh, if I have to be slimy and schemy to make money, then I'd rather not. Right? And I think that's fair.
Right. I think there is.
I think that it's just being opening. I always tell you forget that your superpower is that you choose new options. You just think that everybody should do that because that's your superpower. Like I can get to the root of what's happening for people if I have a conversation with them, even if I just met them. Like when we have conversations, I'll do that. Like I'll get to the root of what's happening. Yeah. That's like my superpower. Your superpower is you immediately go to the next option. Like, oh, that doesn't work. Moving on to the next option. People who get
I'm a solution-oriented person.
Well,
okay, that's not working.
I'm saying no, because there's people who are solution-oriented, but it is not naturally inclined for them to like have a plan and that plan doesn't work. And then new options come to them. Like that's just the way it comes to you. That's not natural for everybody. That is like a superpower for you. So like,
well, thank you.
Yeah, no, I just want you to realize that, because you get frustrated as hell with other people for not being that way. You're just like, why are you stuck? Like, why the fuck can you stop? And I'm just like, it's not that they're like this deficit. You just need to recognize you're like really good at that. So like everybody for the rest of us.
Thank you.
And so it's not like that natural. It's available to us, but we have to work a little harder at being intentional about that. And so that's what I just want to like touch on a lot of perspectives you might be coming at, because when people are saying I hate money, I'm not surrounded by people who hate money. I am surrounded by people who are conflicted and guilty about money. Because the people I know love money. So they get money, they make money, and then are socially aware, they're politically in integrity. They have these astute value systems. So it like rubs up against them
where I know, like, I remember I was like, I lived in this beautiful house. I had like this beautiful backyard. I had maybe a half acre front yard, and our whole city flooded. So I had so much yard that the water couldn't get to my house. And so my whole neighborhood like dissipated. Nobody's house got flooded. Within a few hours, it was good. And the whole neighborhoods were underwater. So I went to Costco and bought like cases of diapers, cases of formulas, because I had a toddler at home. I just think everything that I can think a toddler or newborn would need. And I just spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars because I was like, how can I be in alignment with being like, I am the executive director of Baton Rouge Organizing, and I am completely unaffected by this storm, and I have resources. At the same time, though, like, I wasn't taking into effect the fact that I spend 40 to 80 hours a week for free serving my community. I do not then have to spend several $100s because I wasn't harmed. Like, I think that's, so like the people who are
oh yeah, guilt over having money is a whole other topic, right?
So
like,
I
like,
know tend to be more in that camp. Like, they'll feel guilty about having money or guilty about
oh yeah, no,
getting money, right? Like, oh,
right.
you giving me money is like a maybe that's not completely in alignment with my values, and trying to figure that out, how to have a lot and be excited about that. But
right.
People saying they hate money, ever since I left the church, I haven't been around people who hate money. Like, that's just weird to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think all of this conversation is really just about people's relationships with money. Like you said, people who feel guilty, like, oh my God, I have money, I have resources, and still not taking into account all they do just in their regular lives. So now they feel obligated to give copious amounts, or like, even if it's not to a detriment of them, it's like there's still this thing, right? Like that's still that's still an unhealthy relationship with money.
Absolutely.
And what I want to get with in this conversation is how to get to a healthy relationship with money, right? Because that does happen too. Is like there's this idea that because somebody has some money, they're supposed to be doing something. And again, I'm not talking about billionaires, because I definitely think their shit should be capped, and like, because you just don't need it. Like, you just don't. Like, you just don't.
I don't even mean wealthy people, because money is relative. Wealth is relative, right? Like, if you're making $50,000 a year and all your neighbors are making $500,000, then you're fucking the poor one. But if you're making $50,000,
I'm the poor one. All my friends are making like $10K a month or better. I am not them. I am always the poor friend. I'm trying to be like that when I grow up. That's my goal.
But if you're like around people who are like making $25K or less, then like, and if you're often doing on the ground organizing work, like if you're living the shit that you preach, if you're on the ground because you have privilege with respect to the person that you're advocating with, so you are exposing yourself, you get to be exposed to like shit you take for granted. And it is very difficult. I'm speaking from my own experience. It is very difficult to reconcile my abundance with other people's lack, and like recognize that I still am deserving to have my cup be full, even if theirs isn't. Like, I don't have to pour out, I don't have to become half empty because they're empty to give them some, right? Like, that is what I'm talking about. Like, I
agree.
Yeah, and so like, that's a
balance. I completely align with that, right? Like, and that's what I'm saying with this last few minutes, because I don't want to go over an hour so people will actually watch it all the way through. Because us, we will be like, I think our last one, we were like 5 hours just talking. But that's what I'm saying. Like, so like, let's bring this all the way back. We shared experiences. We talked about like, everybody's different upbringings and different relationships. What would you say are good tips to get into healthy alignment with money, no matter where you are on the scale of having money, right? Like, whether it's I'm at the scale of I have no money, or I do have copious amounts of money, or I do have resources, and can spare. Where's the healthy balance? Where's that in between? What does that look like for people to get into alignment with, like, listen, like, focus on the fact that, like, hey, So yes, systemic poverty is absolutely fucking horrible, and it's something that we need to dismantle. We need to destroy all of the systems that were created to oppress people because that's fucking problematic. And also, whilst navigating the system and doing the dismantling, still living healthy with ease and in abundance, and not equating abundance with a financial number.
Okay, so, all right. So I think the core of this is relationship, at least for me, because
Correct.
I do interpersonal relationships, right?
It's the relationship with money.
Right. So the relationship with money for me, like I had to legit think about like a relationship with like a lover. Like it's gone cold. Y'all have had hurts. Y'all said stuff. Y'all have done stuff. You generally have the desire to desire them. But before you could get to desiring them, you're angry or disgusted, right? So you're working through this. Well, first, how about taking sex and desire outside of the picture and spending time with them? So like I literally like part on a spiritual level, like I put money on my altar. Like it's I tithe into myself. Like literally we just I when I was really healing this relationship, we would keep our savings in cash. And I would count it out every single day. And I would always add to it, even if it was $1. Every single day, I would add a physical amount to it. And like, think about that. There's times I had to hustle for that dollar to get it $1. Because like just randomly, how am I going to get another dollar? Right? Like just, and I was like, but it made me very intentional about it. And it wasn't so the money could do something. So it allowed me to divorce my relationship with what money does and just allow money to actually have a neutral relationship. And then, so that was it. Just having it exist. Just letting it exist.
With its own energy. Like we were talking about that, like everything is living. Every single thing is living because living is vibration, like we were talking about yesterday. So everything has its energy. So it exists on its own vibrational plane in and of itself.
Right.
Right? Because I too put money on my altar. And it's not to use. I don't put it on my altar and like, I need you to multiply so I can, I'm like, no, like I just like, I honor it like I do my incense, like I do my crystals, like I do my rocks, like I do anything else that's on my working altar. And even like for me, like I'm doing the Money Matters class eventually. It's supposed to come out January, but Eve is what I'm inviting in. So when it happens, it will. Is I have one thing where like you literally create hands and just make offerings to yourself. Because I think it's about a divinity as well, right? Like offer to yourself. You pay everything and everyone else, offer it to you. The way you offer yourself anything, right? Like I eat and drink on an altar cloth because I'm divine. This food is an offering to me. This libation is an offering to me. So carry on, back to your relationship, your healing relationship.
Yeah, no, but healing the relationship with money, it's just like, imagine this lover, right? It's about, when I first started doing that, I wanted to be away from it. I wanted to put it in the bank or I wanted to spend it. I made up all of these stories. I have never been robbed a single time. People have stolen from me like on the slit, but I have never been robbed in my life. But when because I had thousands of dollars in cash with me, right? I was just making up stories. Like people just know. They just know. Like I had to go to the bathroom to get money out for something. Like it was just like, but what happened was I had already made the commitment that it wasn't going anywhere. So I started to become aware because I never would have become aware of all of this shit because I would have just naturally spent it or put it in the bank. But when I committed that I'm going to spend time with it, I was able to see how I started acting when I had money. Right? Like,
right.
It was like agitating me. So I was like, what the fuck is going on with this? And so like once it would come up and then I could be like, oh, what do I really believe? What's the truth about it? And work through it. Then I started to like get excited because another thing that I would do is I would trade it. Davender would do this for me. I need to say that part because a lot of this, me doing things, when I say I do things, it means I instructed Davender to do things. I just he would go in and trade in. So like whenever I made $100, he would go get me $100 bill, or if I had like a bunch of ones, he turned it into 20. He trade it into a 20, and so like I would get like started to get excited about who I can trade it. I made enough because, like I told you, it wasn't about I have this much money to go buy this or do this, but it was like I have enough money to where I can go trade in new bills. So then I started to delight in getting brand new bills, like. I got really excited because I would get dirty money and then I would go to the bank and trade it out and I get brand new money. And so by that time, I had been able to go from a negative relationship to a neutral relationship to a positive relationship with just the entity of money. And once I did that, I was comfortable with money. Like I didn't just get activated and triggered around it. It doesn't mean that I've never had a money problem. Everybody has money problems. Like that doesn't like everybody has challenges regardless of what to invest in or how to pay that bill. Everybody has problems.
Whatever. At any level of having money, Biggie said it. More money, more problems. There is no one. I have this conversation with Mark, right? Like when he's talking, bills is this kind of thing. I was like, let me be very clear. Even if I were Jeff Bezos, he got the same bills I got. He's paying insurances. He's paying lights, gas, water. We're going to die with those fucking bills due to the fact that they've taken all of our natural resources and turned it into ways to have to pay for it. So, like, that's just kind of like what it is. So for me, those things in healing, that helped me heal. And I'll get back to that when I give my suggestions. So carry on.
So that's my first thing, is to literally recognize and acknowledge you have a relationship with money. And like it's kind of like back to the lover. Let's say that you have kids together. It's about, hey, remember that y'all have a relationship outside of building a family together. And so like make sure, so that it's like, okay, yes, I'm building wealth and I'm building these things, but let me have a relationship with the entity that is money outside of what we do together. Right. And so now I'm comfortable with money. I know money
benefits you.
Well, I know money likes me.
Right.
Money trusts me. Right. The energy of money trusts me because I'm an amazing steward of money. Right. So it's not that, I want money. It's that money wants me. Money wants the money.
I take care of money.
I take care of money.
I take care of money.
Yes.
I take care of money. That's what I tell myself. Like part of my little routine is that like I do say I take care of money. Like I'm good with money. Like those are my carry on so I can get to my
but so for me it's like I love just flipping it, right? So like what I desire desires me, and to really sit in that energy. Like it's attraction, it's not capture. Right? It's attraction. And so whatever I desire is available. It's not for me to despair. It's for me to be encouraged and aware because I desire it, it's available. Like, but that's a whole nother level of manifestation and creation. But like we're not gonna
we'll get to that. Get to that. Wrap that on up. Giving them a little tip.
No, I mean I'm not a person. Listen, Des and I, if you want to work with us, this is the perfect opportunity to see the difference. I will never give you directions to places I've never been. I'm not going to try to help you walk the path, but what I will do is try to help you see the whole environment so you can make informed choices opposed to only seeing a narrow slice of it and thinking that's all that's available. That's what I do. But I'm not going to say, do this, and this, and this. I'm just like, this is what I've seen has worked.
Here's what I did, and here's how that works.
Right.
And I'm pretty much the same way. But I would say, like, for me, my healing relationship with money was that, right? Because I came from a different background. I mean, like, I knew how things were being met, right? Like, I knew that it wasn't, like, successful jobs happening here. And, like, if you go to college and do the right thing and pay your bill, I didn't have that, right? Like, so I was aware of that. And then my environment around me told me like that wasn't true. Everybody I knew was on some type of Section 8, some type of government assistance. Everybody was fucked up. Somebody was on drugs. Like all of that was a very part of my normal upbringing. So for me, part of it, going back to, like I said, when I'm discussing with Mark about like bills, is it made me that much closer. It made me understand those people that I used to feel like I could never be anything like. right? Because sometimes money can make you feel that way. Like I'm nothing like those people, or I can never be anything like those people. Is that when I kind of came into alignment, like, don't they eat? Don't they pay bills? Don't they have a family? Don't they have the same worries that I do? Like, because if you have $1 million, it's great if you can go buy a $30 million house. Like, how much of the taxes on that motherfucker? Like, aren't you still concerned? Can I pay my taxes every year? Will I make enough money? Right? Like, you see these celebrities that are out here buying, oh, so and so just bought another, a $15 million vacation home in Dominican Republic or something. The first thing that comes up to me is how much are those taxes? Like, literally, that's my first question. How much are the taxes? What's the landscape on that? How long can that be kept? How much is the maintenance on that if I'm not there all the time? Like, so, like, when I started realizing that people that I thought I was so different from, so removed simply because of dollar amount, have to have the same concerns. They have to. There's, like, no other, like, you have to be concerned about that. Because even if you're an entertainer, you can't play ball all forever, right? How many endorsements can I make, to make this happen? When I realized these people were still balancing books the same way I'm balancing books, whether it was like my $300 if food stamps making a stretch, or like, $3,000 making, that stretch. It didn't matter. And when I then started having more money in my own life, I realized that none of those things changed. It didn't matter. Budgeting $3, $30, $300, $3,000, $30,000, one day 30 million. You know what I'm saying? 300,000. It didn't matter. It was all the same. So then I started seeing
there is a shift when you go from easily having all that you need and not easily having all that you need.
So I'm going to say I'm like a core person, right? Like, you see how you said, like, you find the root of things? I do too. Like, and I'm like the person, like, find the root, dig it up, plant something new, right? All this fucking limbing of the trees, like, you're still going to get apples from an orange tree. Correct. Right. They limb the fucking tree all day long, right? Like, and they think that we're going to get apples from orange trees, and that's not the fucking truth. You sound really dumb. Like, dig up the tree, think it for its service, burn that bitch, plant something new. So because that's me, is that, like, yes, there is a mind shift that happens, right? There's an energy shift that happens. There's a whole lot of shift that happens from $30 to $300,000. However, at the core of it, at the things that sometimes when you're poor, at least from my experience of poverty, where you feel you're so separate. Man, it'd be nice not to worry about bills. Damn, it'd be nice to not worry about this. Damn it. Like, no, they're worried too. Like that, like, there's zero.
Or you could not be worried. Like, and I'm not going to go into this.
But then, like, you are irresponsible anyway, in my opinion. If you buy a $15 million house and you have $15 million and you're not concerned about the longevity of keeping this home and planning for what that looks like, that's irresponsible to me.
But it depends. What if you needed the $15 million house to shoot a movie that was your lifetime's goal? Even if
absolutely.
So that's what I'm saying. It's even
but then you can rent that shit. There's no point. I'm like, unless I'm gonna buy that for $15 million and then flip it. What I'm saying is hold on, let me get, because what I'm saying is about relationship with money. Like, obviously, there's a million reasons why people buy things. It could be their dream, right? Like, if I could go back and buy my family's property in Ireland, I would pay $100 million. It would not matter how much, and I wouldn't give a fuck how I would maintain it going from there. It would just be about obtaining that part of our history and putting it back into our family.
No, I know, but that's coming from your value system. What I'm saying is that, like, people can have different value systems to where maintaining that legacy or having that land forever is not what's important to them. It's creating the memories that land, like, it could be different.
Right. That's what I said. It doesn't matter. Like, there's many reasons why people can do. I'm just trying to give, like, some tips, some ideas of, like, healing that space with it. Okay. As I think that when you come from a place of being impoverished woefully and not seeing a way out of it, some of the things that bog you down, stuff that you yourself did not experience, right? Like, having those needs met What bogs you down, like when you're impoverished, is like, how the fuck am I going to eat? Right? Like, how do I pay these bills? How am I going to get clothes for next thing? Right? Like layaway plans. Like, you know, like how am I going to do this? It's a constant, how am I going to do this continuously? That's what happens inside of poverty. And that causes a really sick relationship with money, because there's this equating, like money is going to fix that. Money is going to stop these woes. And this is only if that resonates with somebody. I'm just saying, for me, with the healing of my relationship, is like, those are my ideas. It's like constantly worried about how the fuck was I going to pay rent, how I was going to make my light bill, how I was going to do this, that, and the third. Was like, damn, if I had more money, that wouldn't be a problem. So I didn't like people, or like, damn, must be fucking nice to have that money. Guess you don't have no problem. And so that was my equation of having money and my sick relationship with money. Was, if I have more money, I won't have these problems. And for me, that caused an imbalance in the relationship with money, because what I'm saying is, it's not true. That's
Right.
a story we tell ourselves. No matter where you're at on a financial spectrum, you're still, even a Bezos, not trying to get no fucking sympathy from here, he's still in a hoarding mindset of how he's going to make more billions, right? Like,
what I'm saying,
because,
I guess, is that for me, having a healthy relationship with money is not about worrying. It is about not worrying about money, but that's not
Shamaka,
about how much you have.
you did not have this relationship. I'm saying it specifically for those of like how you healed your relationship with money in regard to like dealing with it physically and changing it over.
Okay, so let me see this, because I want to see if I'm understanding it. You're saying that people who grew up impoverished correlate, like, that only poor people have that problem. And so you're saying that it is not a poor people problem. It is okay, I get what you're saying. I was missing that. What I heard you say was that everybody worries about money. And I was like,
no.
Oh, I reject
no,
that.
Hell no.
No,
I reject that shit.
That's why I pushing back, because I was like, I don't receive that.
Okay, no. I am saying that there is this idea, at least for many of us. I know, like,
right. No, I think that's true. Like, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying now. Like, that's
so, like,
it's not actually a poor people thing. It's your relationship with money. Because you remember when I was telling you about that money thing? I was actually homeless living in a hotel. So because of my relationship with money, right? I was like, oh, I'm not experiencing the level of abundance that I want to. So let me heal my relationship with money. It wasn't let me go spend stuff. It was literally like, oh, let me get a better relationship with money, and then I will attract more. I straight up believe that shit. And here I am in a 3-bedroom house. That's literally like 2 years ago. So so I just also want to tell people, it's not the circumstances. It's my upbringing created expectations that even when I experience circumstances, I didn't experience scarcity, because I was like, oh no, this is
right. So that's what I'm saying, is that from your experience, right? Like how, like, information, we talk about this all the time. Trauma, life experiences, it informs us. Think about the words
creates us who we are.
Form is creation. When it's informing you, it is creating something within you, right? Like, that's how I say information is. So your information that you received was, oh my God, am I in a hotel? Like, these are not my needs being met to my expectations, right? So I'm going to heal what I feel is the barrier to get to what my expectation is. What I am saying is that somebody who grew up woefully impoverished and fucked up, is your expectation is this is what it's always going to be. It's a completely different, you don't see a way out. You hope, you dream. We're going to smoke a blunt about it. We're going to drink about it. We're going to think about it. But we don't really see a way out of it, because, like wealth, poverty is generational. And we done seen enough motherfuckers in our, back to the echo chamber and full circling this conversation, we done seen enough motherfuckers to know that the truth that we're experiencing is we're not making it out of it. We're not. It's not going to happen. We want to. It would be great. But truth says 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nah, like 2 plus 2 is 4. So it's harder. So for me, what I'm saying is like, that's your way of doing the healing, right? Like how you said, like, I'm not going to walk you through anything I've never been through, right? Like, because sometimes people see, like, I put that post up and they're seeing a completely different Desiree, right? They're like, oh, well, look at that. She's at home. She got kids. Her husband's there, this, and that. She's in her house. But I'm like, well, that's not what informed me. That's not what created me.
You, right?
That's who I am now. But what informed me, what created me, was not that. So my thing with that is like what the healing was, recognizing that everybody's going to be worried about those things, not money. Obviously, there's motherfuckers that wake up and are not concerned about bread, like, right? Like, they're going to live for the next. The billionaires are like will live for the next 100 fucking generations. It's exceedingly that disgusting. But like when we're talking about like the average, like 100,000-aire, even a multi-millionaire, I mean, wealth is usually gone within 3 generations. Let's just put that out there. First of all, even people that amass great wealth before billionaire status, by the 3rd generation, they're broke again. So you have to consistently find ways to make more money. So that's scarcity of the rich, and we'll get into that on another topic. Anyway, my point is that for impoverished people, for people who are living fucked up, broke, busted, and disgusted every single day, where it seems like you are so far separated from those people, from even the person that is just making it like $100,000 a year feels like, damn. And you really believe that your problems are going to be gone with a certain amount of money, like those basic needs, right? Because that's what happens inside of poverty. And the relationship with money, at least in my experience, was my relationship with money was, if I have more money, I wouldn't worry about my light bill. I wouldn't worry about my rent. I wouldn't worry about, like, are we going to eat? Am I going to be able to buy my daughter, clothes next semester, not semester, no, next, season. You know what I'm saying? And like, the thing was, if I had more money, this wouldn't be a problem. And while, yes, it also made me separate myself from those people, right? Like, oh, them motherfuckers must be nice. Can't stand those motherfuckers. Oh, yeah, ooh. But if you heal, at least for me, when I healed that, like seeing myself on par with those people, right? Because that's what poverty tells you, is that you're less than, you're not worthy of, you're not deserving of. If you worked harder, you'd have more. So all of that societal messaging tells me that I'm poor because of me. So I'm doing something wrong. So for me, my healing a relationship with money was about seeing myself as equal to those with money.
Right.
Okay, so like, so wait, y'all worrying about light bills too. Regardless of whether you have the money to do it, you still got to cut a check for it. Like, it's like there's like, you shit like me too. Oh, okay. So you still, whether you're paying the accountant to pay your bills, there's still a concern there that kind of, for me, gave me a tether.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, we have similar concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Now, their concerns are different on the fact of like whether they're going to have enough to make it. Obviously, that's not their concern. But what I'm saying is for me, that
logistically getting it done, it still has to get done. Like it
still has to get done.
To get done. It's not going to magically.
Correct. Like you said, back to the whole whether it's hustling $1 or hustling $1 million, right? Like if somebody's light bill is $17,000 a month, they're stressing that light bill or how to make that $17,000 the same way I am trying to pay $170. Trying to pay a $70 bill. So when I made that connection through, right, like they're still concerned with how they're going to make that money. They may not be stressed, but when I, for me, made the connection, like, oh, we all are going to be paying these bills. We're all going to be doing this, that, and the third. For me, that made me feel like, okay, so I'm not that separate. I'm not that different. How do I heal that space for me? Right? And then how do I attract that level of ease? Because back to what I said about money is an intercessory. Like, so yeah, they're concerned about like, okay, well, yeah, I got to pay this bill, but that money is copious for them. I want that same type of ease. in that. And for me, that was pretty much my healing space. And we're like over our hour. But like for me, that was pretty much it. It's like not seeing myself any longer as something separate or a less than type of person or less than worthy or deserving of it. And that the money in and of itself was simply just a tool that made these concerns of basic needs being met a little less worrisome. They didn't need
but not an indicator of what? Of not an indicator of value. Like money. Yeah. So, okay. Heard, understood. Because, yeah, money's not an indicator of a value.
Just ease. No. Right. And that's what I needed to get out of, right? Because, like I said, systemically, that's what we tell poor people.
Right.
Is that I'm poor because I'm not working hard enough. You're not bootstrap and I didn't do enough. What enough?
As if the system was not created to create poor people.
Right. Right. And now my lack of money is the lack of my value.
Right.
So
like
when I
started
seeing people,
you're not smart enough, you're not enough.
Right.
That's why you don't have
when I started seeing people with money as people, like, oh no, you're worried like I am. Whether it's easier worry, like, oh yeah, but there's still like it just for me, like I said, it may not resonate with somebody else, but for me, it was like, oh yeah, because like your $3,000 a month rent feels just like my $300. You still got to pay it. That's my point. It's like they still had to pay it. So okay, that kind of eased my stuff, and it was like, oh, they're not more valuable. They're just living with more ease. I want that too. I want that.
You know what's so crazy? I didn't, and now that I realize it seems obvious, but I didn't realize that poor people internalize that message.
Oh my God, yes.
Right, like I knew that it was preached and that it was bullshit, but like I never took the time to be like, oh no, poor people are walking around believing this shit.
Yes. How could you not?
Well, because I didn't.
The hardest working people,
right? Like I didn't grow up poor. I didn't experience poverty,
but it informed me. Right? Yeah.
When I experienced poverty, I got really pissed about the people who are around me. Like if I'm poor and the people around me aren't poor, then they need to not be around me, or they need to be working towards helping me not be poor. And I don't mean give me money, but they need to be like telling me about opportunities. Or
so now imagine being generationally poor. That is where the hate breeds.
I literally cannot. I can imagine, but I know enough about my own oppression that I literally cannot know the full complexity of what that's like and how that informs, like the conversation you and I were having last night, to where there's things that hurt that other people don't even think about. Like they don't even think about it. Like, and so like I was just when you said that, I was just like, we were having that conversation, and like when I was like, that's weird, that was because I didn't have that perspective of like, oh no, they're actually internalizing that oppression. And so like they're believing, oh, like I'm less than. And I'm just like, no, like, I mean, if honestly, if
that's where it comes from, you have to feel that
first. You probably offer the world much more than people who are making you far more than you.
Right. And so that helped me also come into that space too, right? Like no, like service workers, like blue collar, like first of all, like that's my preference anyway. I'm always gonna fuck with blue collar people. Those are my people all day, every day, way before I fuck with anybody else. That's just who I am. I prefer people who were poor, who've made it. Like that's where I stand. I don't really do very well with those who like have always been affluent or have, because they don't understand that, right? Like they don't have that information. So I'm going to spend a whole lot of time trying to explain my humanity that I don't have the fucking energy or desire to do, right? Because like my big thing is like nobody owes you an explanation of their humanity. So for me, like I said, the healing part, if you are somebody out here who's like listening and you have generationally been fucked up, and like you really believe you deserve to be fucked up, and you're angry about being fucked up, because there are systemic reasons why you're fucked up.
Right.
But to heal that space is like literally look to those that you see like, damn, must be fucking nice, and know that they gotta worry too.
Yeah, like
they got their own issues, they got their own fucking problems, more money, more problems, period, point blank, and that has zero to do with your value and your worth. And healing that space, like not being angry at the money itself, and like moving through that, and even like understanding that controlling person, even if they got broke tomorrow, there's still going to be a controlling resource hoarding, like I made the comparison Like that's the same person that's not going to break a pack of noodles with you either. So it's still not the money. It's them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for me, the people who I speak to would be people who, like, especially most of my clients tend to have that similar. They have conflicting values around their money story, and it makes it hard for them to make business decisions. It makes it hard for them to negotiate contracts. It makes them hard to balance investment and charity or pricing their products, like all of these things, because they have all of this like internal moral confliction about like not being capitalist, not perpetuating poverty while experiencing abundance and really trying to find ease in holding that. So talk about another people. I mean, I know that might not feel like pain. So I don't know. I can't speak to that experience. But what I'm saying is I know that is a very true angst and something that occupies a lot of space. For when you've reached a certain level of success financially and you're connected to people and invested in people who haven't, and you are aware that it's systemic. When you are aware that it's systemic and that is not a personal failing of theirs, there is this hard space of being like, I still deserve to have my cup full even while I watch their cups be empty, and it's really hard. So that's what I help people hold that space, and that when the more you are comfortable with that, then you experience overflow and you are able to abundantly pour into those people. And in that doing so, like, we all live more abundantly. And so that's my message to those people.
Awesome. All right.
Okay.
So we're going to head out because
we've been on here forever.
Time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only been an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But when is our next one? What are we doing this every Wednesday?
So I think
is it Wednesday?
Yeah, it is Wednesday, but I can't do every first Wednesday because we have Monday. We have monthly check-ins on the second.
Listen, ma'am, woman, human. Sorry, not ma'am, not woman. We've set a schedule. We're doing that. We're gonna honor that. Then you need to drop something else, and we're gonna pick up this. So we'll see you next month on Wednesday. Bye.
We're going to talk about this. Bye.
Say bye.